All right, fourth grade. Today we are working on lesson 2-3. Go ahead and label that so you know when you look back in your notes which one we're working with here. 2-3, that's going to be pages 21 and 22 in your book. We are working with estimating to find a sum today. So, once your books are out, hopefully they already are, get your notes out so we can take some notes. And we're going to start by writing out a problem here, but we're going to start because it doesn't want us to actually find the real answer, it wants us to estimate. So we're going to start by writing estimate here. And then we're going to go ahead and write in what the problem is. So we're going to estimate 5,280 plus 765 plus 1,527. Take a moment, write that down. Make sure you have the problem written down. And then I'm going to color code just a little bit. If you want to color code, you can, as long as you can keep up. If you fall behind, maybe don't color code. Maybe color code later when you have extra time. Okay, before we even get started, all of these numbers go to different place values. These two both are in the thousands, and this one's only in the hundreds. So what number are we going to round to? Well, that's a great question. We're going to make ourselves a little box with a little information, right? So we want to, I'm going to move down here just a little bit. We want to round each number to the greatest place of the smallest number. What does that mean? That's a great question. Get it written in first, and we'll talk about it in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and box that up. You know, we like to box up important rules and things like that so that we can find them easily. This is important for us to remember, so we're going to put it in a little box. And once you have that written down, we'll move on. So, it says we want to round each number to the greatest place of the smallest number. That means out of these three numbers up here, we're going to find the smallest one and round to the biggest place value of that smallest number. So to make things easier, let's rewrite the numbers over here on top of each other. Remember, it's always a little bit easier to compare numbers when they are lined up on top of each other. So we have here 5,280. We have 765. And remember, you want to line up your ones column, not this column, because this is only in the hundreds and this is in the thousands. So we want to make sure they line up over here because both these numbers are in the ones. So don't line them up by their first number, line them up by their last number. And then we have 1,527. And we're going to set those up for adding, except it doesn't want us to add this. I'm sure you probably could. Most of you are looking at that like, I could find the answer so fast, and I believe you, but that's not what it wants us to do. It does not want us to add them up as they are. It wants us to round first and then add them up. So we're estimating, okay? So looking at these numbers, which is our smallest number? Obviously 765 because it only goes to the hundreds place. That means we're going to round all of these numbers to the nearest hundred. That's the biggest place value of the smallest number. The smallest number is 765. Its biggest place value is the hundreds place value. So we're rounding all these numbers to the nearest hundred. So if we come up to 5,280, that means the nearest hundred is this 2. So we're going to look at that 8 to see if this 2 is going to round up to a 3 or stay a 2. That 8 is 5 and up, so we're going to round up, meaning 5,280 is going to become 5,300. Okay? Our next number, we round to the nearest hundred. So, rounding to the 7, right, in the hundreds place, we're going to look at the 6 next to it to decide, is that 7 going to round up to 8 or round down, staying at 7? Okay, 6 is 5 and up, so we're going to round up. So that 7 turns into an 8, and 765 becomes 800. And our last number there, the hundreds place, is this 5. So we're going to look at the 2 next to it to see if that 5 rounds up or rounds down. 2 would be in the 4 and below section. 4 and below rounds down. So that 5 stays a 5, and 1,527 becomes 1,500. Everyone with me so far? Okay. So we're going to take these numbers now. Hopefully you got that written in because we're going to move to the side just a little bit. And we're going to rewrite these numbers as their rounded numbers instead. Okay, so like we said, we can look back up here to remind us. There we go. We can fit almost everything in there still. 5,280 rounded to 5,300. So I'm going to write that here. 765 rounded up to 800. So I'm going to write 800 here. And 1,527 rounded to 1,500. So I can write that here. Now all we have to do is actually add them up. And this is even easier than it would have been right here because our first 2 rows are just zeros. 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0. Now we have 3 plus 8 plus 5. Well, you could do this many different ways in your head with your fingers, whatever. I'm going to do 5 plus 3 first because 5 plus 3 equals 8. And then I have 8 plus 8, and I know 8 plus 8 pretty easily is 16, so I'm going to put my 6 here. My 1 goes up here. Then I have 5 plus 1 plus 1, which is 5 plus 2, which is 7. So my answer, my estimated answer, is 7,600. This is not the actual answer to this problem. If I did this problem, I would not get this answer. All right? This is the estimated answer. I rounded and then I added. So that's all you're doing today is for every problem, you're going to round, then you're going to add. And then that's all you got to do. Let's look at one more together just to make sure you fully get this, all right? So we have 2 numbers here. We have 266,504 and 23,786. Now remember, we want to round each number to the greatest place of the smallest number. So, out of these 2 numbers, which one's smaller? It's pretty easy to tell right away because, well, this one doesn't even go to the 100,000s. It stops in the 10,000s, right? So, we're going to round to the nearest 10,000, right? So, let's go ahead and rewrite this problem. All right. For our first number here, 266,504. We're rounding to the nearest 10,000. That's this 6 right here. So we're going to look at the 6 next to it to see if this rounds up or down. Well, the 6 is 5 and up. That rounds up. So we're going to change this to 270,000. And for 23,000, we're rounding again to the nearest 10,000. That's this 2. So we're going to look at the 3 next to it to see is this 2 going to round up to a 3 or stay a 2. And when we do that, we know that 3 is below 4. 4 and down rounds down. So that 2 is going to stay a 2. So we're going to get 20,000. Now all we have to do is add those up. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. Add my comma. 0 plus 0 is 0. 7 plus 2 is 9. 2 plus 0 is 2. And my estimated answer is 290,000. Now, what happens if I have 2 numbers that have the same number of place values? So far, we've had one that was smaller than the rest by a whole place value. But what if I have, say, let's do this down here. What if I have, say, 458 plus 432? What do I do now? They have the same place value. They both go to the hundreds. Well, then I round to the nearest 100 because they both are in the same place value, and so we want to round to the greatest place of the smallest number. Well, it doesn't matter which one's smaller. I mean, this one is, right? Our 432 is going to be smaller, but it doesn't matter because it rounds. If we're rounding to the greatest place of the smallest number, we'd round to the hundreds. And the top number also would round to the hundreds. So we still just round to the greatest place of the smallest number. In this case, they both just happen to have the same number of place values. All right. Your homework is 2-3, page 22, numbers 1 through 10. Just like that. 2-3, page 22, numbers 1 through 10. Just the evens. Numbers 1 through 10, evens. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. That's only 5 problems, all right? 2-3, page 22, numbers 1 through 10, just the evens. Get to work. If you have any questions, you can ask the sub. They have the answer book. They can help you out. Otherwise, you can ask me tomorrow morning before school. Get that homework done. It's due tomorrow, and I'll see you later today.